Good afternoon, everyone. We're Team Phoenix, and welcome to our half presentation. The topics we're going to cover today are about us, coders, where we are, playtesting, and what's next. We first want to introduce the team. I'm Yang, programmer.
Eric, 3D artist.
Fiona, artist.
Anthony, programmer.
CMX, programmer.
John, game designer.
Taku, producer.
And Tim's our sound designer.
Our advisors are Dave and Melanie. Our client is the OCCO at EA, and our primary contacts are Rich and Tom. According to the requirements of our client, we are building a slot car racing game with EA's new amazing technology, which allows players to use mobile device as controller and play the game on TV. So the game is about 10 minutes experience. The player could pick up the game easily and enjoy it when they are waiting for the next TV show to start. At the end of the semester, we would like to deliver a commercial product in terms of gameplay. For those who are not familiar with slot car, a slot car is guided by a slot in the track on which it runs, so the player only controls the speed, not the direction. Our given demographics are 40-year-old moms and 10-year-old boys, because EA suggests that mom could not only be the gateway in buying our product, but also be interested in play with their sons, because slot cars were popular during their childhood in 1980s. They might want to share the experience with a new generation. Next, Eric will talk about our matrix for success.
As our client has some really specific goals for this project, they also outlined some very clear metrics for success. We tested the game with 3 pairs of kids and moms, and they all had fun playing together. Then we're in a pretty good position. Additionally, anyone in our demographic should be able to pick up our game and within 90 seconds of playing become proficient. And so ease of play has been our overriding design principle, especially as we try to satisfy the specific but wide-ranging demographic. In particular, the product is designed for people who do not own consoles. And so because these people are not gamers, we're going to assume that they're not going to necessarily be experts at the game. And so failure can be fun as well as success. In slot cars, crashing is considered to be the most memorable moment. So if we can deliver the excitement and humor of this experience, then even someone who's not competitive might still enjoy the game. Additionally, these dynamic crashes relieve repetition and create unique moments. Another important design decision we made is to use overhead perspective. This allows you to view the whole track, and the experience of seeing your car in addition to your opponent's car influences the race and makes it a shared experience. This also has the added bonus of differentiating it from the other racing game on the service, which uses a behind-the-car view. Most importantly, this ensures that independent of any other design decisions that we make, we'll preserve the basic experience of slot cars through this camera perspective. And over to CMX to explain how we're going to recreate this experience digitally.
Thank you, Eric. Given our high-level concept and design requirements, we needed a realistic physics system because slot cars behave really, really differently from actual cars. And crashes were going to be a very important part of our game. The control scheme given to us by EA were that of smartphones and tablets. This could potentially cause big problems because it's really, really different from slot cars in real life, which is controlled by a trigger. And there are no pressure sensors on these devices. The tech also needed to create an automatic path generation system for our designers so that whenever we change parts of the track, we do not have to go in and place waypoints for our cars again. We also did some initial research. One of it was the prototype, which allowed us to test different physics systems and pathing systems to see what was best for us. We played with digital slot car games on the smartphones and tablets, which allowed us to look at different input systems that other people had implemented, and these allowed us to see what was viable for us. We also played physical slot cars. We have a slot car track in our project room that enabled us to see how it felt like, and we also went out to play on a bigger track. We wanted to capture the emotion of physical slot cars, so these were really important tasks that we had to do so that we could transfer these emotions into our game. Next, Anthony will go on to present about our quarters.
Thanks, CMX. So at Quarters, we had quite a bit of feedback from faculty. We found out that they remembered most of the crashes from their childhoods. They also wanted to be able to compete with kids and actually win rather than just letting the kids win themselves. So they wanted to, they threw out the minivan as a potentially interesting vehicle, and it was also a concern that our demographic was actually dads who had played slot cars more than moms. So we took these assumptions and we tested them at the Carnegie Science Center. We got a pretty even distribution of men, women, boys, and girls, and we answered some questions like we have 35% of the people we asked actually knew what slot cars were, and only 13% had actually played slot cars. And this actually happened to be mostly dads. So that kind of affirmed that assumption. So this was our paper prototype, and we asked people which vehicles they actually found interesting. 4 front runners we got, and the minivan was not among them. So that disproved that. We also did the same thing with our track design, and 2 were the front runners there. But people liked one or the other. They didn't like both. So we kept this in mind when we decided to do 1 track instead of the 6 tracks that we had originally planned. Because of this, we needed to switch gears with our tools design to focus on flexibility rather than a full, robust set of tools. So walking through our new tool system, we start with a track piece and layer on 2 connection points that can automatically find other connection points. Then we put in our waypoints in our rail system so that the cars can actually follow those points along the track. We then place this as a master position and put in another piece that is automatically found by the master track piece. We repeat that process until we have a full track. And then once the full track is in there, you have all of the waypoints automatically placed for you that can then be changed by the designer independent of the programmers. Now, Fiona will talk about our art direction.
Thank you, Anthony. So where are we right now? After the paper playtesting, the problem that we were trying to solve was to merge the 2 themes that people like the most into, ta-da, the final one. We really wanted to find somewhere between reality and fantasy that can both hit the nostalgia of slot cars and also bring in toy elements such as pirate ships, castles, small towns that can hopefully entertain and excite our demographic. We understand that the visual of our project should be interesting and also not distracting from racing. To achieve that, we laid out our environment on top of the track design and applied appropriate color palette to it. At this point, we were pretty excited about designing all those interesting interactions, cool events, before realizing that we really need to narrow down our scope and get a playable prototype for playtesting as soon as possible. So from the art side, we quickly built up a 3D world, and since we are aiming for a shippable quality of visual for our product, it's important for us to plan ahead the steps to go towards the final polished world. So we look at some reference on the internet to see how other people are creating their fancy product. And looking at where we are right now, we are confident to hit at least 80% of completion by the end of the semester. So now, actually we have already entered detailed modeling phase, which is, however, not included in the current version of our game. So please enjoy the video of our game demo.
All right, so that's our game demo, and now I'm going to talk about our playtesting process. So what we've been doing so far is we've been using playtests to inform design. So we'll think of some cool feature or mechanic, and then we'll quickly prototype and test it out, and then we're trying to just fail fast and follow the fun. So what have we done so far? We've done 3 major playtests besides our internal ones in the focus test. The first and second playtest was here at the ETC, where we used our peers and also we used faculty and their kids. And we were testing a whole slew of things. We were testing, our turns fun? Are crashes exciting? How does the boost mechanic feel? And so on. And then we learned some feedback. We got some negative feedback in terms of the tunnel was not in a good place, the boost mechanic felt useless, turns was frustrating, and so on. And we also got some other feedback that there was a desire for humor, and crashes were the most exciting part. So we took actions based on the feedback we got. We removed features that weren't necessary for our game. We revamped other features. And things that seemed like could be fun, we tried to prototype and develop them further. We've also done a playtest over at the Science Center. We had 42 people try out our game just 2 weeks ago. And it was a whole slew of people, kids, parents, chaperones, and so forth. And on a 1 to 5 scale, with 5 being really satisfying, people found our main features to be in the 4 to 5 range, which is pretty good. Most people would recommend our game to someone else, and the people that didn't, they found the game to be too simple or too frustrating. So those are feedbacks that we need to keep in mind. We also are aware that there's a slight bias because we were present. One main question we were trying to answer there is, does the art enhance the experience, or does it detract from it and make it be distracting? Luckily, the art is enhancing it. We also got some good qualitative feedback. We found out that mastering controls was enjoyable and crashes were providing these exciting moments. And kids mainly enjoyed the competitive nature, and they wanted to play each other again and again and again. Parents really enjoyed that the game was so simple and they were able to just sit down and quickly play a game with their kid. We also had some unexpected feedback where males tended to play the game in a very different way than females did, so that's something we have to keep in mind going forward. We also still have to continue to iterate and make our turns in feedback of the game a little better. During GDC week, we had a chance to talk to our client, Rich, and he took a look at our game and he gave us some good feedback, so just being mindful about scope, making sure that we do include a catch-up mechanism, and just to continue iterating and making the game feel better. Now, Taku's going to talk about our next steps.
Thanks, Sean. In a preparation for the end of this semester, the first thing we decided to do were come up with potential features. The first one is the pirate ship. While you're driving, the pirate ship may just start bombarding you, but it's okay, because as a player, you have the opportunity to fly across and crash into the ship and sink that ship down. The next one were to be the lambs. These guys will be wandering around the tracks, and if you bump into them, you may be slowed down, giving the slower player an opportunity to catch up with you. The next one are the aesthetic changes. We're thinking about doing a day and night cycle, a snow, or a dirt map. Now, all of these features that I mentioned are potential features that are not solid set to stone, which brings me to the next slide, the challenges. The first one is platform. This is major. We're already in HAVS and we do not have our platform yet. We are planning to have our platform within 2 weeks, but we are making sure that we have enough time for integration, and not only that, but if there's any bugs or anything we need to fix during that process. Following is the demographic. As you can see, none of us are 10-year-old boys and 40-year-old moms. So how do we tackle this? We have and we will continue to conduct playtests to make sure that our estimate on our demographics are accurate. Finally is our scope. By the end of this semester, we want to create a product that has a shippable quality, not only in the visuals, but also in fun and in engagement as well. As John mentioned, we were able to directly talk with our client at the Game Developers Conference and get some feedback. We also found out that our semester goal will be 1 feature and also the integration of the new platform. Now, how are we doing with this? Going into our schedule, we're currently at HAVS, and followed by 4 weeks of production or the development phase before our softs. Now, 4 weeks is very short, but we are very confident that with our strength in prototyping and playtests, we will be able to finish this. After that, we'll be polishing and into our final presentation. At the beginning of the semester, EA gave us milestones. A prototype and game proposal at 2 weeks, game alpha at HAVS, game final release candidate at the softs, and then the game final at our final presentation. In order to tackle this, we came with our specific playtest milestone. starting with iterations, followed by controls, feedback, platform, right into softs, 2 weeks of polish and finalization, and into our final presentation. In summary, we have a very strong game and art direction. And although we have all of these obstacles waiting ahead of us, we as a team are very confident that through our strength in prototyping and playtesting, by the end of this semester, we will be able to create a game that will become a gateway for non-gamers. Thank you so much for listening to our presentation. This ends, and we are ready for questions.
So you listed adapting the slot car interface to a tablet as one of your challenges. I'm wondering if you can talk some more about the design decisions you've made around that and what's been challenging.
So the question was, we talked about adapting our slot car controls to tablets and to talk about the design decision behind that. So the game needs to be able so that it's accessible and someone can just pick it up and play. And right now we don't have our actual tablet interface controls yet. So what we've been using to test is on a keyboard. So we've been using a one-button control scheme, and that can translate really well over to a tablet interface. So that's what we're doing for right now. We would also consider things like gyroscopic control, so being able to tilt to accelerate your car, but that's depending on when we can actually get our platform integration.
Have you found anyone's trying to play an alternate game with this by attempting to knock over as many props as possible and
Yes.
compare?
So the question was, are some people playing the game not through the lens of a racer, but through the lens of someone that just wants to destroy the environment? And the answer is yes. There are some people that play the game and they don't really care about who's winning. They just want to watch. They just want to enjoy the environment being destroyed and hitting other cars and watching them launch off. So we plan to feature that mechanic.
So you're going to nurture that and.
Yes.
Yeah, I was going to follow up on that. I was really surprised to hear you talk about using your car to destroy off-track obstacles, so that you're essentially making crashing a part of the mechanic, because slot cars does have the danger of being a little dull, but if you have this constant choice about, do I want to win the race, or do I want to go for this sort of a skill crash where I try and execute a certain kind of crash, that's a really interesting tension that could do a lot. So, but it sounds like you guys are on the case with that. Okay.
Arseny?
You mentioned that female players are playing differently from male players. Can you elaborate on that?
Okay, so the question was, I mentioned that female players play the game very differently than male players. So right now with our code structure, we're accounting for the fact that when you navigate on turns, you'll hold down the acceleration button and then you'll let go. But we've noticed that females, including a 2.5-year-old girl, they all play the game by just tapping the acceleration key repeatedly, which caught us off guard. So that's something we need to make sure our controls account for, the fact that people have different play styles with the game.
That depends on the gender.
Yes. Dave?
So the thing about real slot cars is it's an analog controller, right? So when you push lightly and it speeds up differently. Are there plans to do that, to translate that sort of controls into a tablet?
Yeah, we have plans to test out the gyroscopic controls if we get the platform in time. Part of the problem with the gyroscopic controls is that you have to actually like calibrate them. And the other thing that we're trying to do to get the same feel with just a button press is actually show like a feedback of how quick your car is actually moving at any given time, so you can tell when you need to let off to go into the turns and whatnot. So although it won't have the same feel as a trigger, we're hoping to get the emotion across and show enough information to let them make choices.
I'm not sure if this is helpful, but again, I've seen that has done that. It's used a slider mechanic on the.
That's another one that we're actually considering, but again, we haven't tried it with a tablet yet.
Time for more?
Do you guys think about tactical feedback like vibrations when the car is actually on the boundary of getting off the track?
So the question was, are we considering tactile feedback such as vibrations? We are considering that, but that's a feature we intend to implement, but some of our players won't be playing on a smartphone, they'll be playing on a tablet that might not support vibrations. So we need to make sure that we do as many things as possible so everyone has a good sense of feedback when they're playing the game. Good question.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.